fat, a very, very small amount of it. That seems like it would be wet, but when we say wet, we typically mean the product, okay? So I need to dry my product before I saute it, right? That's usually what we mean. Now this is one of those gray areas where it's like, but we use oil, okay? There's a huge difference between saute and pan fry. Pan fry is a medium amount of fat. Saute is a small amount of fat, okay? Now we know that salt means what? To jump. So it should be hot enough that when we drop something in it, it pops right up off there just a little bit, okay? Now, over there in parentheses I put sweat. In a lot of recipes you read, it says you need to sweat the onions, you need to sweat your whatever. You do that with cold oil, put everything in it, and then you gradually raise the temperature that way. So like if I were to sweat onions, I would put oil in my pan, put it on the heat, add my onions right away, and then it'll all come up so that the oil releases its sulfur and all of its flavor, and we're sweating it. When we saute, it should be hot enough that everything goes right into whatever we're sauteing. Sweating, it comes out. Saute, it goes in. Make sense? Okay, while I wave around this jug. Alright, so our pan is hot, then we add the oil. Okay? Remember, a pretty small amount. It should never be smoking. You can tell that it's obviously hot. Is everything okay, Shan? You just smashing my herbs? Are you? Okay, so the most normal thing that we're used to is onions. And when it hits, it should sizzle. So never throw them all in there. Let's find out. Sounds good, right? Got a nice little sizzle. Okay. Saute is everyone's favorite because it makes them look like they are cooked. Right? When you saute, you're usually like tossing it. Okay, some of you don't have that yet. I know a lot of people who think they can toss food and then it ends up way over there. Okay? What the problem is most people don't commit or they way over commit, right? They're like, and then it ends up across the room, or they're like, okay? It just comes with experience. Okay? So we instantly get color, typically on a saute, but we don't want to burn it. Okay, so we have to really kind of play with our temperatures from there. All right, we always season. Now, you do not have to toss what you saute. In fact, a lot of times you'll just use a spatula and stir it around because it's safer. But I know it looks cooler to do this, right? All right, we'll give those a second. Will you grab the spatula, the rubber spatula out of my bag? Be careful, there may be knives in there. Merci. Okay? So, while it looks cool to be tossing around all the time, it's not really the most controlled, so we use a tool. Okay, what's this? I love how you guys make that sound, like I'm just going to be like, let me help you. Nothing? It's a holder. So if I say, go get me a holder, it has an actual name. What's it called? How about this? Bain-Marie, right? This is a Bain-Marie. This is his exact use. I put my hot tools right over here instead of having to run all over the kitchen. Plus, when I pull something out of hot oil, I don't want to set it on my cutting board and start melting the cutting board, right? Make sense? All right. Now, my onions are starting to smell delicious. So I'm going to set those to the side. I told you I'd make you a curry. I'm not going to because we don't have all the ingredients. Curries need a lot of ingredients and we don't have most of them. But you will smell the difference when I start adding this ginger here in just a second. So in here all we have is onions and ginger right now. Okay? Try and move some of that oil. That is that. I can't believe how hot that got. Okay, so we'll let that go for a second. We keep seasoning as we need. Alright, after that, I'm going to add some of our daikon. I'm going to add this bok choy. So before you taste the sauteed bok choy, I do want you to taste raw bok choy. You don't have to do it right now. Just when we start tasting, make sure to taste the raw first, and you'll see how it changes just with a quick saute. Now, depending on what we're sauteing, you have to be very careful, right? When we saute spinach or lettuces or anything like that, if we saute them too long, they wilt completely. And What started off like this ends up like this, okay? So we have to go very fast, very hot, usually with even less fat, because that fat is what's going to break down the leaf, okay? Ginger tea smells so good. Okay, the fear with saute is that it will stick and start to burn, so we do need to move it around periodically. Right, but it's starting, you smell that ginger coming out, right? It's starting to smell really, really fresh. Ginger also, when it's hot, is what we consider unctuous. Unctuous is when you smell something and you're like, oh, hungry. Right, like instantly you're like hungry, that's unctuous, okay? We see it a lot with proteins, okay? Ginger, probably one of the best ones is fenugreek. When you smell fresh fenugreek, you're like, I need food now. Like you're just instantly like, need food, right? Your whole day just stops, all right? So, use that stuff to your advantage where you can, okay? I'm gonna add just a touch of lemon here. So, I need to at least saute this until it's cooked, right? Now with the onions, it's not hard, but with the ginger, because it's so fibrous, I need to make sure that it's soft enough that we can bite into it, okay? I just found out I have a cut on my thumb. You always find out right after you like squeeze a lemon or dip it in salt. That's when you find out, because you're like, oh, that hurts. Excellent. When you get into pastry, we have pure citric acid, and it comes in powder form. Do not get that in a cut. It hurts so bad. I mean, it's like napalm, and it's because it's a crystal, it just melts into your wound, and you're like, ah. It's really unpleasant. What? Lots of stuff. Lots and lots of stuff. Instead of using like orange juice, we use it, especially in candies, you have to use citric acid. That's what inhibits it from crystallizing all the way. Keeps it like soft. What's up? Maybe. You and your safety. Okay. So spot more oil. As I'm getting ready to add the other stuff. Now when you saute, you usually get some kind of filming here, but that's alright. Because that's how we know we're really drawing out flavors. Okay? And a lot of times what we'll do is we'll make like a little pan sauce, right? We'll deglaze it with something. Okay? Alright, we're just going to kind of saute this. It's really closer to braising at this point because we are going to have to add some kind of liquid to it. But at this stage, it's just sauteing. So the question is, what liquid should I add? Depends on what you got. Since I have this amazing ginger tea, and it's full of ginger. And you see it starts to kind of clean the pan. You start developing a lot of inert flavors that way.
What else could you add, Chef?
I'm sorry?
What other liquids could you add?
What other could you? Anything. A lot of times if you're making a pan sauce, you'll add alcohol. You could add just butter and make like a really rich buttery sauce like that. But I just use the ginger tea. I mean, if it's breakfast time and you're making some kind of really elegant hash, you could deglaze with maple syrup or maple alcohol. You know what I mean? All right. So we're just gonna let this go. Needs a couple more seconds to soften up that bok choy. But you see how bok choy, it stands up to the cooking pretty well. This isn't exactly like our spinach where it just falls apart. When you make like a really good rice dish or a stir fry and you want something crunchy, get bok choy. It holds up well, it's incredibly healthy, and look at that color, right? Even that shade of green, right? We don't need it to be like whiz cow, but it's nice to have color in our food, right? is an Asian style dish, like Asian inspired just from the ingredients. If I wanted to make it more Asian, I could add like, you know, oyster sauce or squid sauce or some kind of Asian chili or anything like that, right? Just for argument's sake, we're gonna add spicy sesame oil. And this will really give it that last little bit of push that we're looking for. What's that?
So we'll have the labels in Japanese or Chinese.
There's no way.
Alright, so now it's definitely starting to smell Asian, right?
Yeah.
The sesame sauce, all that ginger coming together, it's going to be extra, extra great. If your pan's too big, always use a tool. Okay, so what else can we saute? All kinds of stuff, right? Using the same pan, I'm actually going to do it just in the spicy oil this time, right? Still the same thing as before, we got to let our pan get hot. If we add oil to a cold pan, it's not the same, right? It heats up really weird, it starts breaking it down. It's not as good as it could possibly be. So we're just waiting, right? This, we'll set aside, we'll let it cool down a little bit, and we'll taste in a second. But here, I'm going to saute some mushrooms. It's got a little bit of shallot and all of those herbs we were talking about earlier, right? Okay, tons and tons of them. Some of them I've picked, some of them I haven't because I just want the flavor. I don't want it to actually stick on there. Okay, so we add our spicy herbal. We'll need a little bit more for a mushroom because it'll absorb a decent amount. Now this should also have a little bit of unctuousness, right? As you smell it, you should be getting hungry. Okay, mushrooms we know take a little bit of time. So what we want to do is kind of break them down to where they're really nice and delicious. Okay, now this one I'll probably throw a little bit of butter in because I know that mushrooms are going to taste extra great with a little bit of added butter. Turn it into kind of like a little sauce, right? Mushrooms also absorb like all the liquid, so it's really great to saute mushrooms because it'll clean your pan for you. Now, saute should not end up being a flambe, like this should never catch on fire, but when it does, don't panic, just blow it out. Okay, just blow it out, alright? It's hot enough, any little spit germs you get on there are gonna die, and it looks better than you being like, what do I do? And there's a huge flame up here, right? See all that juice now? Good. Small amount of vinegar. And of course it's rice vinegar because there's a gentle Asian thing going on here. Clearly I'm very Asian, right? You don't like the smell of vinegar?
No, the smoke,
Yeah.
it's like in my eyes.
It's your fave. Okay, we can go ahead and start getting the herbs out. Alright, I'm going to spread my mushrooms out just a little bit, let all the juice come to the center. That'll start to evaporate, and then I can add my butter and turn it to a really nice sauce. But you see, we're deglazing the pan at the same time, right? That's where a ton of flavor lives, right there. Almost like with our braise, it's very, very similar. Now, if I really wanted to, I can throw a chicken in there, right? Could I? I would never cook chicken with cooked mushrooms, right? I can eat the mushrooms out and use the same sauce, absolutely, but I can't just throw a chicken right in there, right? still have to watch out for that. A little bit of butter, and I do mean a little bit because in a French school that's a very small amount. More salt. And you'll see this beautiful cafe au lait color will start to develop. Okay, we'll let some of that moisture cook off for just a second. So now, I want to take this, just the good stuff, right? I do need to dry my chicken, so can I have some paper towels, please? We always want to dry our products before we saute. And then usually with saute, we always put the presentation side down first. Okay, because it's gonna get all changed as we start cooking. So the presentation side almost always goes down first. Now when you drop something in to be sauteed, you gotta be careful. It's going to shrink, right? Much like when we talked about grilling, we want it to shrink a certain way. Okay? Especially when you do fish, you have to hold the fish, otherwise it curls up on itself. So that's when you wear your sleeves down, because it's going to pop you. Okay, so distribute my heat. One more time. Nice and easy, right? I always like to kind of shake to gently separate that skin because it will stick a little, and instead of ripping it, if I just slide it, it might pop up off there and then it sautés for you. Okay. My oil's finally getting into a controllable range. So we said we poach at what temperature?
160 to 180.
Okay. This is just olive oil. Alright? I can poach in any liquid. This is a wet cooking technique, obviously, right? Okay. This is olive oil. I've thrown some herbs in it. It's not a lot, but you'll see when we taste that that flavor comes through quite a bit. When we drop this in, it should just go straight down and it should gently start cooking, okay? At no point should it start bubbling. If it's bubbling, you're frying it, okay? It's very common to poach in buttermilk. It's very common to poach in broth. It's very common to poach in oil. This is considered a very healthy style of cooking, right? Even though we're submerging it in oil, we're not cooking it at such a temperature to where it sucks it all in, okay? I love poached food. I love it. I love the texture of it. A lot of people don't, but it's nice and slow. Plus, if it's in there long enough, it's an easy way to cook it, okay? We poach a lot of fish, right? That way it cooks really nice and even and we can just remove it and we don't have to worry about breaking up the proteins or anything. Right? You have too much oil? This is another reason you'll have a bain-marie. I can't just like pour that into the flame, can I? No. So you'll usually have a waste memory, some tools, clean water, sanitizing water, all kinds of stuff like that. Alright? So I'm going to move things too hot again. We really have to watch the temperature on that because it can change from poaching very quickly. Now, one of the big things when we saute, especially a protein, is basting. Okay? We have to baste it. What we do is we'll typically throw our chicken on one side, we'll pull all of our juices, and we'll baste our meat. Especially once we start adding like butter and garlic and thyme and stuff to really increase those flavors. We add a lot of butter. We have to really kind of baste our product that way. It's super delicious. Alright, a little bit of butter. Since there's like half as much butter as chicken now. Remember, it's a French school, but oh, look at all that golden deliciousness. Okay, get our thyme down in there. Really start releasing those flavors. Again, we come down and we start basting. It's all about basting, because now look at the color really advance on that chicken, right? Now we're getting that super golden brown. And smell all that? That's the unctuousness, right? That's why when you go to a steakhouse, you're like, it is so good. Because it's all butter. It is all butter, people. Be careful with your butter. We use whole butter because it has that milk solid, but if we leave it in here too long, obviously it's going to burn. So we change it out if we ever add butter. If we just keep going with oil, you can burn oil, but it takes longer because there aren't milk solids, right? Doesn't have to stay on the heat, because obviously it's still cooking. We're going to make this a very Asian French style. It's what we consider a bistro, right? We just start borrowing from whatever country we want. We get over here, we check on our chicken. It's a little hot. Okay, we're technically frying it, but the message will still be the same. Okay. Very gently colored. A lot of times when we poach it, it doesn't color at all. But if it has a little bit of color, totally fine. Also, what you poach in it will affect that, right? If I poach in red wine, better believe it's going to end up being purple. Okay? If I poach in buttermilk, it's going to stay white. Okay? You can poach in any liquid at all. Just know whatever liquid you use should have a flavor, otherwise what's the point, right? Okay, obviously we need to let our protein rest. See all this, right? We're starting to carbonize the butter. It's starting to get black. So I would definitely be like, all right, we're done with this, send it to the dishwasher, okay? How do I know when my chicken's done? 165. Luckily I've already got a probe in there, right? I can just shove my probe right in my breast. Say what? It'll measure some, but the tip of it is where most of the temperature goes, and you see where like it drops instantly and now it's coming back up with the chicken. The hard thing is not going through the chicken, right? Not going through whatever you're poaching. Basically, if we leave it submerged in a certain temperature, judging by the thickness of something, we know how long it's going to take, right? Like a chicken breast this thick, I know should only take 5 or 6 minutes. It's been in there for at least that by now. Okay, so it should be completely safe. 96, 97 degrees Celsius, we're up closer to 200. Obviously, my chicken breast is fine. Now, normally, if we were roasting and my chicken was at 200 internal, dry as a bone, right? But because I'm cooking it in liquid, it's going to stay moist, right? I love poaching food. I don't love the act of poaching, but I love poached food. Especially when we get like a lot of flavored liquids or oils or something. Totally worth it in my mind. Okay? Feels good? Then we let it rest, just like everything else. Okay? So any questions over the techniques? Alright. I'm going to say let's poach off some more chicken. If you guys want, you can saute. Every single drop of mess you make, you will clean. So go crazy.